All right, here we go. Question 16 from our Precalculus, homework number 12 in MyLab Math. They want us to find the determinant of this 3 by 3 matrix. And so what I want to do is go to the scratch work and explain how we get a determinant. And we'll look at, I think, 3 different techniques for finding the determinant of a 3 by 3 matrix. So if you were to use the MyLab Math helps and look at the way they explain how to find a 3 by 3 determinant, you're going to notice that they explain a technique called expanding around minors. Now, that's what I have written down here in my notes. Let me kind of explain what that means. For example, it means if we were to take the first row, we could expand around this first set of elements, and we could convert our 3 by 3 determinant into a series of 2 by 2 determinants, which we already know how to do. And so the way this works is, it says, focusing on the first row, we're going to take the first element, which is A, and then we're going to cross out the row and column that A is in, and notice the resulting 4 by 4 matrix is the determinant that you would calculate. And then you would move to the next element in row 1, and it is important to note that the sign changes. So these signs are going to alternate, plus, minus, plus, going across, and this would work the same no matter which row or column you choose to expand around. So focusing on the next element, B, if we eliminate his row and column, we end up with D, F, G, I, and that would be the 2 by 2 matrix we would need to calculate. And then moving to the third element in the first row, crossing out the column and row that he is in, gives us D, E, G, F as a 2 by 2 determinant. And so then if you take each one of these terms and you expand it further, knowing how to calculate a 2 by 2 determinant, that ends up being A times EI minus FH. And again, those are indicated multiplication. Minus B times DI minus FG plus C times DH minus EG. And even I'm getting confused saying all these different letter combinations, but this is the way that MyLab Math and most teachers would present the lesson as far as calculating a 3 by 3 determinant expanding around minors. What I'm going to teach you is a quick, slick trick for calculating a 3 by 3 determinant without you having to memorize some convoluted minor technique or some really long formula. So let's look at our problem that they gave us, and I'm going to show you the technique that I use. Okay, so here we've got the problem they gave us in our MyLab Math. We want to find this 3 by 3 determinant, and again, what I'm about to show you is what I call a shortcut. It's a technique that will work every time, and in my opinion is a little bit easier to understand than the expanding around minors. So the first step in the shortcut says that we need to copy and paste the first column outside of the determinant, and then we need to copy and paste the second column again to the outside. And the only reason for doing this is that it makes the shortcut work. So that's step number 1, copy and paste the first 2 columns to the outside of the determinant. Then the next step is to multiply down on the diagonals. So starting with this diagonal, we need to multiply 3 times negative 5 times 5, and whatever that is, we're going to write that down here. So that's going to give us negative 75, and then we move to the next diagonal and multiply 4 times 1 times 1. That's going to give us positive 4, and then one more diagonal, and then we run out of numbers. Negative 3 times 1 gives me negative 3, and that is the first step of the technique. Now for the next step of the technique, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, because now we're going to multiply up on the diagonals. And notice I switched my color to red. That's to help you remember that when you're multiplying up on the diagonals, whatever the result is, you have to change the sign. Now there's no other reason to explain why that works except that it makes the shortcut work. So multiplying up on the diagonal, 1 times negative 5 times negative 3, that would give us a positive 15. So we would need to change the sign to negative 15. Do you understand? Like in your checkbook, if you're in the red, you're in the negatives. So I'm using red to indicate whatever you get from the multiplication, you're going to have to change the sign. So for our next diagonal, 1 times 3 is positive 3. Change the sign. And one more multiplication. 5 times 1 times 4. That is positive 20. Change the sign. And then once you finish multiplying up and down on your diagonals, then I need you to add each row of numbers. So negative 15 minus 3 minus 20. Altogether, that's going to make negative 38. And then on the bottom, adding across, negative 75 plus 4 is negative 71. Minus 3 is negative 74. And then these two numbers hanging off the end, you need to add them together, and that result will be your determinant. So 8 and 4 is 12. Carry the 1. That's going to be a negative 112. That is our determinant. Without having to understand minors or any formulas, this is the technique that I'm going to recommend that you use for a 3x3 determinant. Now, as a special treat, before I plug that in and check it, for those of you that have my calculator, I would like to show you how the ClassWiz can calculate your 3x3 determinant for you. Now, since this is a matrix, we're going to need to go to the menu and scroll over until we get to the Matrix app and click equals. And then we're going to have to define our matrix. So there's 4 variables here. We're just going to go with matrix A. And it says how many rows are there? 1, 2, 3. This is a 3 by 3. 3 rows and 3 columns. And then you simply need to input the numbers given. So 3 equals, 4 equals, negative 3 equals. And then it shifts to the next row. 1, negative 5, 1. Last row, 1, 1, and 5. Now you do need to hit equals one more time to store that. Now once you've got that matrix input into the ClassWiz, we need to hit clear. We're going to go to option, scroll down, and then there is your option for determinants. So number 2. We want to calculate the determinant of matrix A. So back to option. Here's matrix A, number 3. Close parenthesis. This will calculate the determinant of the matrix we just input. And you're going to notice that it is exactly the same answer as we got doing the other technique. So the calculator, the ClassWiz, does have the ability to calculate your determinant for you. And one other thing before we leave, if you're doing this with your ClassWiz and you need to get back to, regular calculation, you simply hit menu and 1, and that'll take you back home. And checking our answer, negative 112, and we're done. So if you have any questions or comments about anything covered in this video, please feel free to leave those in the comment section below. Or you can text me, and thanks for watching.